good afternoon to everyone just joining us, and welcome along to more Tennent's Premiership action and what a game we have in store at Philiphaugh as Selkirk do welcome Hawick. They're the top two border sides in the country at the moment, and they go toe-to-toe after a draw in the opening game of the season back in August when it finished 20 points all, and since then Selkirk have continued to address the issues that plagued them last season and find themselves in the playoff places at the turn in the league, whereas Hawick have gone on to record 7 victories on the bounce. Kick off a few minutes away. But it's been common for Scott White this season to reshuffle the deck slightly, and he's trying to get his best players out on the pitch, and that means that due to the absence of the injured Grant Sooty, who got injured against Currie last week, and the departure of Ryan Godsmart back to Belgium, recent arrival Craig Jackson starts at inside centre alongside Welsh, which is perhaps the biggest news in the Sooters lineup. They start with Matt Reid at fullback. They've got Lachlan Ferguson and Ryan Cottrell on the wings, and Jackson and Welsh in at the centre. Aaron McComb will lead the side, or co-lead the side, alongside Ross Nixon at standoff, who moves from the back row. In the front row we've got Petty, Bett and Philiphaugh, James Head and Cochrane in the middle row, and then McComb, McClymonth and Job in the back row. And the visitors have also been making some changes, with 4 players from the opening game of the season not even making the squad today. The depth at hooker is a position that Hawick are definitely blessed in at the moment, and a head knock to Ross Graham means that captain Carrier returns to lead the side, and Fraser Rennick returns from Super 6 duty with Southern Knights to earn a spot on the bench. Matty Douglas believes he has a team to continue to lead the rest at the summit of Scottish rugby, and tasked with that job from the off are Kirk Ford at fullback. We've got Ferguson and McKean on the wings, Huggan and Mitchell in at centre, with Patterson and Brunton the half-back parent. Sean Muir and Nicky Little are the props, with captain Carrier at hooker. We've got Redpath and Fairbairn in the middle row, with Sutherland, Rennick and Jay Linton in the back row. Yeah, the squads are going to be vitally important as Selkirk now take the field in their almost entirely navy top against the Green Machine from Mansfield Park, and the referee just about to get proceedings underway, and it's going to be the scrum half. Aaron McComb, right boot to the ball and kicks it downfield. Selkirk going from right to left. They're playing towards the town, and it's a huge hit to start off as Hawick gathered the ball just outside of their 22, and it was met well with some really good Selkirk aggression straight from the kick-off, and a little bit of afters round the ruck as well, as Patterson box kicks downfield, but it's gone out in the full, and that's a positive start from Selkirk. They've made a good bit of territory, certainly out with aggression in defence, and forcing the error there from Hawick.
Tough old props in there. Petty and Svadrak have been going really well for Selkirk against the hugely experienced Sean Muir and Little, so yeah, always good to see the first time the front rows come together, and yeah, as you say, an early sighter.
It's just on the fringes of the 22 in the Hawick half, and just straddling the 15 metre line over on the far side opposite the stand, and it's Patterson to roll the ball in, and he's managed to get that into a scrum which has been driven sideways, and there's no quarter given in there up front as Selkirk look to try and muscle their way, but the penalty has gone the way of Hawick, and certainly it looks like it's going to be a competitive area of this game. The forwards, it's something you alluded to before in terms of you feel it's going to be a forward battle, but it looks pretty nip and tuck up front.
Yeah, if anything, I thought Selkirk got a bit of a shunt on there, and I think even though they coughed up the penalty, they'll be pretty pleased with that outcome, that first scrum.
Ford kicks downfield from the penalty, and it's still 0-0 here. It's put into the scrum there. Brunton now, he's linking up with Huggan, who tries to feed Mitchell, who manages just to barge his way over the 10 metre line. So a couple of hard yards earned there. Now Jay Linton, a player who Robin Purdie alluded to earlier on, he's going to be vitally important. And now Nicky Little looking to try and keep the tempo in this attacking phase going. And again, Jay Linton just offering himself up round the fringes. It's a great effort from the Hawick forwards to steal about 10 metres, but it's been counter-rucked there. James Bett gets over as Patterson has to do his janitorial duties and sweep up, and he's been met with some intent Selkirk defence, but Matty Carrier now finds a gap, and he steals an extra 10 metres and charges his way towards the 22, and Hawick certainly got their tails up now. Passed on to Redpath from Muir. He's been met well in defence by Selkirk, and it's now in the hands of Aaron McComb, who kicks downfield and tries to turn the tide, but Kirk Ford is back there defending well. He's been met with some defence as he scampers his way up towards the 10 metre line, and the cavalry does eventually arrive for Hawick. Back inside their own half now through Patterson, who's just sizing up his options as he tries to steady the ship, and Nicky Little now looking to try and take the ball forward, but he's been met with another great defensive effort there from Philiphaugh. He does really well just to drive them back. I think the Selkirk defence has been very impressive in these early stages. Brunton now in the pocket, sizing up his options, looks either way. It's covered well for Selkirk, and it's Lachlan Ferguson who managed to cover the field, kicks it downfield straight into the hands of Hawick yet again, who return it. Aaron McComb is now covering the field and feeds it back inside to Ross Nixon. He's got Craig Jackson for support. His first outing in a Selkirk jersey, and that's perhaps not the best kick from Craig Jackson there. He was inside his 22, but it was a scruffy effort, but he was in his 22. He's been let off for that. He's made some good ground, to be fair.
He has actually. I wondered if that had been taken back in by Hawick there.
And it's going to be Beck to throw into a really attractive attacking position here. He hits the front of the line out. That's a job done. First one, he hits Monroe job at that, and now the driving maul coming on. It splinters round the side, and it's McClyman who's had his headgear ripped off him. And there's a bit of a counter ruck coming on there, but Selkirk still in an attacking position through Head. Head finds Jackson. Jackson's got Welsh in support, who cuts back in field, but he's been wrapped up by Mitchell. The attacking waves keep coming, and now Cochrane. He's having to roll and try and fight to get this ball back. It is in the hands of McComb, who finds Nixon. Nixon looking to try and squeeze through the gap, and he's been wrapped up yet again, but Selkirk making some slow and steady yards here. Philiphaugh just tipping on, but the gap closed quickly by Hawick, so there was no entry point there to squeeze over the line. Now McClyman, who's managed to get his fashion accessory back on his head, he takes the ball forward. Now in the hands of Jackson. He tries to distribute to Welsh, who was perhaps just a little bit flat. He knocks the ball forward. It's now in a Hawick hand as Selkirk look to try and kill this ball here deep inside the Hawick 22, and that's perhaps an opportunity wasted there as Sean Muir now carries forward. The advantage coming for Hawick as they pass deep into the pocket to Kirk Ford, who can kick clear with his right boot. And Selkirk come again. Philiphaugh, he carries forward, and he's been ripped by Nicky Little. He's went high on his opposite number, and he's stripped him in the tackle in the attack, and it's now Hawick who turned the ball over yet again. 15 minutes gone here just about at Philiphaugh. It's still 0-0, and this is the best attacking position that Selkirk have been in this game, but they cough up the ball yet again, and Hawick can kick clear, and now they get outside of their own 22. It's a good defensive kick, a good defensive exit from Hawick, but Selkirk looking dangerous on home turf.
Yeah, Selkirk have had all the ascendancy so far, but a really good defensive set by Hawick there. It was a great hit, prop on prop, and the ball was spilled by Svadrak, who actually looked like he took a bit of a dull one there, and the trainers were on to have a look, but he's made a hard stuff, and he's battling on by the looks of things.
Yeah, the man who made the big hit on him, Nicky Little, spent a bit of time at Melrose and a bit of time out of rugby, and you can see the impact that he has in this front row for Hawick, and certainly their squad is a little deeper than it was last year when they fell short in the semi-final up at Mar in the Premiership, and they're leading the pack now as from that line out Selkirk again can launch an attacking platform. A little bit of miscommunication in midfield, but Nixon does find Cottrell coming off his wing looking for work, and now McComb centre field just in front of the Hawick 10 metre line finds Jackson. Jackson looks to go it alone and ghost it and size up his options, and he's got nobody in support, but the ball has come back again as Nixon spills the ball out wide to Welsh, and Welsh is looking to stand up. The defensive effort now, Cottrell's trying to manipulate the 2-on-1. Now Monroe job just goes straight over the top of the Hawick defence, but has been well supported there as Nicky Little got back to cover the charging number 8. Head acting as a pivot to Nixon, who finds Petty going short over the 22. And Selkirk's attacking waves just keep coming as Nixon. He's got Jackson. Jackson's got some options there. He finds Matt Reid, but he's been hit man and ball. And it was a great defensive cover there from Hawick because it was dangerous out wide, but Selkirk are working really, really hard in attack to get the ball back on their side. His Head again charges up. Now Nixon's got some support there. He's tried to bounce the ball out of contact, but it's went loose. But again, the endeavour from Selkirk has allowed them to get the ball back on their side, and Luke Petty now acting as an auxiliary number 9. He finds Monroe Job, who's setting up a platform. Selkirk have conceded a lot of territory here. And Nixon linking with McClyman. And again conceding territory. That's another 5 or 10 metres back towards the 10 metre line from intense Hawick pressure in defence. And now in the attack, when Selkirk have got the ball in hand, they're clumsy with it, and it's come back on a Hawick side. So Hawick will be very impressed with their own defensive work rate, but from that, Kyle Brunton has tried to kick the ball downfield, and it's you would say an unorthodox charge down there from James Head, because the ball where it's left, Kyle Brunton's foot has found a couple of his own.
Yes, it's travelled no distance from what was he put his foot right through that, Kyle Brunton, and Aye, that's hit James' head from about a metre, exactly where you don't want to be hit, I would say, by the looks of things. And he's rightfully taking his time to come up from this big James head. Shouldn't laugh, really.
No, you shouldn't laugh.
I'll quantify that by saying I know James well.
Yeah.
And he'll take a bit of playful ribbing about that on Monday.
A healthy crowd here at Philiphaugh, you have to say, for this big border battle. The two top border teams in Scottish Club Rugby at the moment, if you're looking at the tables. But Hawick are on the attack now. From the scrum, they find Kirkford, who put in an absolute perler of an exit kick there from deep inside his own half.
Yeah, Kirkford, he's an absolute Rolls Royce of a player, isn't he? Lovely kick that's given Hawick their best territory of the game so far, albeit it's going to be a Selkirk line. But a couple of big defensive sets that have set Hawick up here when Selkirk were attacking.
It's a scrappy line out there, and it is spilled back on the Hawick side. The referee was almost going to play on, but he's hoisted his left hand up into the air, signalling that it's going to be a penalty to Selkirk.
Hands on the floor, number 4.
It's a put into the scrum for Patterson, who scampers back to the base of the scrum and fires a ball to Brunton, who finds Huggin, he's got Mitchell in a tight space there as they both tried to squeeze through the same gap, but it was a good option for Huggin to keep the ball as it gets a bit congested there just inside the Selkirk half centre field. And now Hawick looking to pick and go around the corner, and Jay Linton is the player tasked with that. He just trucks it up. Now Fairbairn, now into the hands of Callum Rennick, who's maybe stole a yard or two, and Patterson sizing up his options as James Bett just almost sneaks round the side of the ruck, and now Jay Linton just goes toe to toe, manages to just barge off 2 or 3 Selkirk players and manages to go forward 5 yards to the hands of Sean Muir, but it has now came back on a Selkirk side, and they're looking to try and counter-attack, but it's been well swallowed up there by Hawick. It's inside the Selkirk half on the far side opposite the stand, just short of the 10 metre line, but it's got Scrappy over there. There's a knock on from Hawick. It's going to be a put into the scrum, but you feel that it's going to be who blinks first here and makes an error as opposed to who's going to unlock the defence, because defence is so tight from both of these teams, but there's a few errors in there as well. Spoke about the battle at hooker between you've got Rennick, you've got Graham, and you've got Carrier as well, but in the forwards there is Hawick just to try and drop the anchor and put a bit of pressure on Selkirk to get the ball back on their side. But to allude back to the depth of the squad as a whole, it's a very, very strong bench for Hawick, because there's a bit of pressure on the Selkirk kick as Matt Reid tried to find some space, but Patterson tried to sweep it up the loose ball. He wasn't able to get it under his spell, and now it's Ronan McKean who's looking to break free from his own half. He did get 2 tries against Selkirk in the opening game of the season, a game that Hawick could have perhaps won if it wasn't for the width of a rugby post, as Kirkford kissed the sticks with his winning conversion. And now Matty Carey finds himself like a cow jow on his back, but he does well to get the ball back to the Hawick side. Ironic, he's a shepherd as well, but it's come back to Hector Patterson, who's just getting a little bit of length on the ruck to put that box kick up. He's got good height on that, and maybe not a lot of distance, but it's certainly one that's competitive, and it's just fallen into the breadbasket of Dalton Redpath. And Patterson gets to the breakdown quickly, finds Linton in some wide space, and I really like that about Jay Linton. He really tests and stretches that defence, and Kyle Brunton looking to try and turn the Selkirk defence, and Craig Jackson finds himself back there. Selkirk get the ball back on their side from a scrum, and it's Craig Jackson who was looking to try and find some space, and it was open field, and he looked like he could have unlocked that defence, but Selkirk doing well. And now it's Aaron McComb who's got his Strictly Come Dancing shoes on as he's having to pirouette and weave his way out of trouble in a congested area. And Selkirk doing really well to move the target as Philiphaugh now offers himself up for a carry just on the 10 metre line. McComb slow to the breakdown, which slows the tempo slightly, but Matt Reid has got some space over here. Now Munro Job gets the ball through his hands. Ryan Cottrell looks to kick downfield, and he has turned Kirk forward, but again he's been marshalled out the field of play. It was perhaps some interesting defending there from Lewis Ferguson, and just made himself a target.
No, play on.
It's been kicked clear, and it's a good kick there from Hawick.
Time off. I'm happy, it's just him going back square, play on.
That is an excellent kick if it's been adjudged to be inside the 22, which I believe it was, and Hawick take the play towards the Selkirk 10 metre line. Yeah, it's been an interesting game. You would think if the score was 0-0 it would be a bit of a bore, but it's been an entertaining game for a 0-0. As again an unorthodox line out from Selkirk does fall into the hands of Philiphaugh, but he didn't have to get hoisted into the sky. He just kept his feet firmly on planet Earth. and it just fell into his grateful hands. And now Hawick doing well on the floor. A battle which they've perhaps been second best at so far, and it's Matty Carrier who leads from the front, got himself in a very good position over that ball. It's came back and it's going to be a penalty to Hawick. Hawick are really blessed to have 3 top quality hookers, because a lot of teams across the country would cry out for hookers of that calibre, and Matty Carrier hits his target on the 22 again as Brunton looks to try and feed Callum Rennick, who's been shot out of a cannon. The pace that he's arrived at that ball at. Now Brunton going against the grain. He's got Kirkford, he stabs through. There's a chase, is on. Is the ball going to go up kindly for Hawick? It's fallen at the foot of Lewis Ferguson, the Hawick winger. He was in the right place at the right time. It was scrappy there, and I wonder if the referee has called that the try has been given. There's going to be a conversation here, but great work from Brunton to kick through. It was the chase was on from Ford, who tried to hack it forward, and it was Lewis Ferguson who eventually managed to just gather the bouncing ball and squeeze it over the line, and it's an opening score here from Hawick. And Kirkford has now got a touchline conversion about 2 metres in from the touchline on the stand side for a right-footed kicker. He's going to have to try and curve it away from the posts, the natural trajectory of the ball. He stabs it, he tries to get a low angle at that kick, and it's going to be a put into the scrum on the halfway line. It's Selkirk Munro Job just feeding off the back to Ferguson, who tries to peel off and create that overlap, and he almost does just that. And Matt Reid now kicks forward, and Ryan Cottrell has got a foot race here with Ronan McKean, and McKean is just going to win and get to the tape first, gets the ball down, and Hawick with the goal line drop out. And it's a scruffy one, but it's just falling into the hands of Nixon on the 10 metre line. He finds Craig Jackson, who's just going to probably just truck it up, does just that, finds a little gap in between Fairbairn and I think that was perhaps Carrier there, and then they go against the grain. Luke Petty finds himself in a distributing position, and now Munro Job linking up well with Bet as Selkirk approach the Hawick 22 now. Bet finds Nixon, who's at first receiver. He floats a ball to Shafagjak, but he does well to gather it under some intense Hawick pressure. And now McComb again finds Jackson, he tries to stab it through, and now against the turn Mitchell has fly hacked that through. It's going to bobble out of the field of play, but perhaps Jackson just a little bit too close to the defensive line from Hawick. Not a lot of a gap there to try and stab that through. It's an interesting player. I think Craig Jackson is a brilliant ball carrier and obviously got a good boot, and especially when you've got a 10 like Nixon, he's a good skillful player, but perhaps not best known for his kicking game. And James Head is from the line out, is an accurate line out from Selkirk, and it's James Head rampaging his way over the halfway line, and now Nixon distributing well to Josh Welsh, who's another very talented rugby player who can play multiple positions. And now on the halfway line, Aaron McComb is just sizing up his options, taking his time to get the ball out there, and now hoists it into the sky from his right boot and trying to make this a foot race. And it was Patterson who was back there looking to try and gather that ball and knocked it on, and now it is Josh Welsh now trying to weave his way out of trouble. And he does well to take that closer towards the Hawick 22 as Selkirk look to finish this half with a bit of a flourish. They're certainly ending it the way that they started. It's bounced off the shoulder of Craig Jackson, who's found a little bit of space in the Hawick 22. The mark's not been called by Kirkford because he's just lumped that straight back down to Selkirk, and he's kicked that just outside of the Selkirk 22. Ross Nixon now a little chip and chase, showing his flair. A man who can play back row, fly hacks it down towards the Hawick 22 now, and it's Patterson who's there looking to try and mop it up, but he's probably just sclaffed at that. It's came off the right side of his boot over the stand here. I'd like to see Ross Nixon's direct feed from our commentary, because after saying that he's not got much of a kicking game, he's certainly exhibited it well over the last couple of minutes with a little chip and chase. Did. It's now into the hands of the aforementioned Nixon, who's got a little show and go, but he's been wrapped up well. The Selkirk players should get there and comfortably get that back on a suitor side. James Head peeling round the side of the ruck and does fine. I think that's Cochrane. It's actually McComb who's splintered the defence over to the Hawick 5 metre line, and it's now Selkirk looking to try and just inch their way forward, but the attacking play from Bet there just a little bit over eager, and he coughs the ball up, and Cottrell now is having to turn back deep inside his own half. He looks to stand up Fairbairn and go round him, kick it downfield, and then it was a very questionable challenge there from Fairbairn, who led with perhaps a shoulder in his elbow.
Penalty there or penalty here?
Thrown to the line out. Head rises the highest out of everybody there, and he's been hoisted into the Selkirk sky, brings down the ball to the maul, and it's squirted out the back of that as it's now into the hands of Craig Jackson, who finds Lachlan Ferguson off his wing. His almost namesake Lewis Ferguson in a 14 jersey has got the only score so far here. It's Selkirk 0, Hawick 5. as we approach the half-time whistle here at Philiphaugh in Tennent's Premiership action. And now Aaron McComb finds Nixon, who's probably not got a lot of options on his left shoulder, and he just trucks it up, which is he's certainly able to do. And now Jackson, who's trying to use some footwork to get inside of this Hawick defence, but they're finding it very, very hard. Hawick not committing a lot of bodies to the breakdown, which is meaning they can spread the field really well, because I feel Selkirk are getting very lateral in their attack so far. And Nixon now out the back of McClyman, and it's Ryan Cottrell who was out the pocket and looks to try and offload, and now it's been fly hacked yet again downfield, and the chase is now on. But Lachlan Ferguson doing well to get back. He's been met with two big mongrels in Redpath and Fairbairn, I think that was, or perhaps Linton, who got back to put a bit of pressure on the Selkirk winger. And now Selkirk on their 22, Jackson, he's going to kick it out. It's safely kicked off the field of play, and the referee purses his lips round the whistle, and he blows for half-time, and it's half-time here. It's Selkirk 0, Hawick 5. Well gathered by Ford. It's now in the hands of Jay Linton, who's waiting back in the pocket, and he absolutely melts Munro Job, goes through him, gets the offload to Ronan McKean, and he's been well tackled there by Matt Reid, who comes out of the full-back position. Now Jay Linton yet again recycling himself, gets the offload, Dalton Redpath charging up the tram lines, but just knocks the ball on, and the power there from Jay Linton.
Oh yeah, and the work rate of him as well, you know, he smashed into the first contact, and he was back up to go again. And yeah, I tell you, I've been really, really impressed in this game as well by Dalton Redpath. He's really put himself about, and he was on hand there with another great show of work rate. You know, he was almost away down this near touchline, and yeah, I think you used the word in the first half that there are some mongrels in this, you know, some absolute mongrels, some dogs in this Hawick forward pack. How much of a second kind of lease of life is Nicky Little having at the moment as well? He's playing tremendously well. Yeah,
he's 3 tries so far this season. He's been a great asset to have back in the arsenal of the Hawick weaponry. And now Craig Jackson, who's tasked with trying to get the platform set up for Selkirk as they look to exit their own danger area. Aaron McComb box kicking that forward, gets good length on it, and it's straight under the throat of Hector Patterson, who does well to gather that under some pressure just on the 10-metre, the halfway line. And it's going to come back on a Hawick side. And the aforementioned Nicky Little was one of the players just stacked in there to keep it in support. 4 players have to try and join their arms together and get round Matty Carrier and bring him to ground. Now Sean Muir taking the ball forward, inching over the halfway line. Hawick now looking a little bit more assured as Brunton just picks that off the toes, tries a crossfield kick, but this perhaps might be a little bit more dangerous than he imagined when he went through his repertoire there. As dancing back in field is Ryan Cottrell. He almost finds some space inside the Hawick defence as Selkirk look to counter. Now Nixon finds Head in centre field, looks to get the offload to Philiphaugh, who does well to look to offload to Job, but it's opened up for Ronan McKean. Ronan McKean is now going to pin the lugs back. Aaron McComb looks for the tap tackle, but Ronan McKean counter-attack and play from the winger, and he is going to get his 5th try so far this season, his 3rd against Selkirk, and Hawick stretched their lead.
Yeah, and it was a bit of loose work by the Selkirk forwards, trying to pass out the contact when they might have been better served, sticking up the jumper, but Ronan McKean, he's built like a second row, but he literally is a sprinter. A couple of victories in the border summer circuit for him, no less, this summer, and he needed no second invitation to pin his ears back there. He must have gone for what, 40-45 metres at least?
Definitely, it was right in front of us on the halfway line, and Selkirk were trying to shift the point of contact to perhaps open up that defence, and all they done was left themselves vulnerable because the ball bubbled about and Ronan McKean just gobbled it up, pinned the lugs back, went the distance and got a score in the corner. It's still a challenging conversion kick, but Hawick do stretch their lead here at Philiphaugh. It's Selkirk 0, Hawick 10, and Ronan McKean, the try machine, gets 5 tries. As we say, he got 2 in the opening. The game against Selkirk adds to his tally, but Hawick will be very impressed with the way that they've come out in their second half. Kirk Ford with a conversion on the 22, just a few yards away from the 15-metre line. He's caught it well, but it's to the left-hand side of the post. And Kieran Thompson is coming on to replace Philiphaugh for Selkirk. I would echo that in terms of, I think that Hawick have looked to form team. However, all teams in the Premiership look pretty vulnerable this year. And the line out does come back on a Hawick side. It was flapped about and pawed in the air between both the the jumpers, but it's been knocked on as Hawick look to try and launch an attack. And you would imagine this is where perhaps the opportunities could come from Selkirk, attractive centre field positions at a set piece.
Hey!
Come on! You seen that? Sir, straight kick, you're watching it.
Let's go.
Straight kick at his
Just a
shin.
tangle legs. Let's go.
Come on, sir. Standing watching it.
Come on, Purdie, man. Hey, come on. Come on. Can't believe you're claiming for that, man. Let's go.
Crouch.
McComb, who's the scrum half for Selkirk
Bind.
this afternoon. We spent most of last season out in the physio room, and he's looking back to his best here for the Suitors as the ball's rolled into the scrum. It starts to kind of twist and weave, but Monroe Job does well to gather the ball as it goes in behind his legs, and Nixon stabs it downfield, and Lachlan Ferguson is tasked with trying to put a bit of pressure on Kirk Ford, who again kicks downfield and looks unflustered and almost unmarked on his shirt. As Selkirk try and push the ball back infield, Ryan Cottrell has thought he'd seen a space there, but the flailing Hawick arms were quick to make sure that gap was closed as James Bett is on the fringes. He manages to steal a couple of yards there again for Selkirk as Aaron McComb just drags that ball back for a box kick, hoists it into the sky, and it's Ronan McKean underneath that. It's Hector Patterson, underneath that. And it's been met with intense pressure from Selkirk as they try and get the bodies there and get the ball back on their side, but Hawick have done well deep inside their own half to get it back. Sean Muir acting as scrum half. He does find Jay Linton again, and I know we don't give out man of the match awards and accolades on Borders Rugby Radio, but he would certainly be up there in nomination. But the Selkirk players alert to that. The ball squirts out the ruck and they cluster round and engulf the Hawick players as they try to get that back. Fraser Rennick now with his first real charge, and it's straight into the shoulder of James Head as he marches them back a few yards. The defence from Selkirk getting a little bit flatter as they cover the backfield and premeditate the next phase of this game, and it's going to be a box kick from Patterson, and he hits the back of Callum Rennick's head, and now it's Brunton who sweeps up the ball, and now Ford has got Ferguson, the opening try scorer in this game, looks to try and stand up his opposite man and go back in field, but he's been tackled well as he escapes his own 22. Hawick now through the hands of Rennick. It's Callum Rennick this time. He tucks the ball up and looks to try and buy some time as the players gather there, but the ball has gone loose and Ross Nixon has gathered that, showing what hybrid player he is, now playing 10. He's played a bit of blindside flanker as well so far this season, but it's been stabbed downfield, and it's Mark Reid who's making this a foot race, and it's going to be a try for Selkirk, and I think it looks like it was Lachlan Ferguson who got on the end of that. It looked like it was something out of nothing for the Suitors, and they kicked downfield, and it was you would say that's great awareness from Selkirk to see that there was an opportunity there. They kick downfield, and it's a great try from Selkirk. Can they close the gap here? This game is certainly not done yet.
Yeah, it's the day of the Grubberdale, and that stemmed from one of the only Hawick errors of this half so far. They coughed the ball up in midfield. As you say, Nixon was quick onto it. Nixon made ground. They've recycled possession. Lovely grubber, and Ferguson is in like his namesake L. Ferguson in that same corner that stemmed from a similar situation in the first half. This time it's Lachlan, and it's game on.
If you're just tuning in and you hear me saying Craig Jackson to take the kick for Selkirk and sound surprised, it's his first outing for this Selkirk side, and it's almost hugging the touchline here at Philiphaugh. Right-footed kick. He's made a good connection with that, but he's perhaps just got under it too much, and it just snakes to the right-hand side of the post as Aaron McComb from the box kick kicks downfield. It's been gathered there by Linton, palms one off, tries to barge over the other, does just that. He's then got Cochrane for some support, but he does well to try and just tie his shoelaces together and get him down to ground. Ross Nixon now busting out of the line and offering his services in defence, and you feel that this Selkirk defence is going to have to be impregnable now as Fraser Rennick just busts out the line. He looked like he got a couple of knees to ground there and set up the ruck, but the referee allowed Selkirk to continue to rip the ball. Now Kirk Ford kicking downfield. He manages just to escape the clutches, but I feel Selkirk almost had dealt well with that. It was Ryan Cottrell who tried to gather a very awkward bouncing ball over on that far side, but he's been adjudged to have knocked on in the act of trying to gather that ball, and it's going to be a put into the scrum for Hawick. Has been well protected and hounded by a very robust Hawick scrum. The arm is now out. You would imagine that Hawick have got a free ball to play with here. If they can get it back on their side, they do just that. So they take the play further towards the line as Patterson looks to try and have a little snipe. He finds Rennick, Fraser Rennick, who's been a replacement for Carrier. And now Hawick looking to try and utilise this free ball from the advantage from the scrum. Patterson finds Brunton out the back. He almost tried to find Mitchell, but it's just been knocked on there.
That's the attempt to play the ball. It's a floated pass. We'll come back for the penalty. Not staying square.
About 6 or 7 metres away from the Selkirk line, and Fraser Rennick is going to throw into the line out. Job done there. They bring Fairbairn down to ground, but the maul has been brought down to earth. It's been spoiled there by Selkirk. The referee has flailed his arm out as well and given the advantage to Hawick, so there's a penalty coming. And the referee, a shrill of the whistle, saying that they brought it down. Luke Petty raised his eyebrows there, and I think that was in agreement with the referee as they looked to try and stop what possibly was going to be a green machine onslaught. As Hawick looked to try and maintain their unbeaten record. They hold the cards just now as Patterson rolls the ball into the scrum. The nudge now comes on from the Hawick pack. It's going forward. It's been hit by a few hands there. The referee has again signalled for a penalty, and you would imagine this is penalty try territory now. Bruce Riddle's first introduction to this game is going to be trying to stop this Hawick scrum charging towards the Selkirk line. Selkirk trail 5 points to 10, and it's a put into the scrum, and it's going to be Hector Patterson for Hawick to roll the ball in. Another assured scrum there. It looks like this time it looked like Selkirk almost had the advantage. The referee is going to call for a reset scrum.
It was certainly a lot more solid than the last Selkirk scrum, wasn't it?
It definitely was, and if this is maybe not one for the rugby purist who likes a bit of open action, but this is an interesting part of the game. This could be pivotal in terms of who's going to go away from Philiphaugh with the points here, because that change in the front row has worked wonders initially, but it's going to be another reset scrum, and it's going to be Patterson to put the ball in. The front rows just having their last bit of communication before the lock horns yet again. Patterson will be having to keep a close eye on the ball at the back, because it has been getting a little bit clumsy underneath these legs, which have been charging and champing at the bit to try and get the nudge on. It looks like a little bit low on this near side. It's splintering and popping at the top. Philiphaugh looked like he had the upper hand there, but the referee has deemed that to be a penalty to Hawick.
Tight head's going straight in and up in the hooker.
I'm not a front row expert, but it looked like to me Selkirk had the upper hand.
Nor am I. It certainly looked to me that Fraser Rennick was the first man to pop from that set piece.
I put into the scrum again. Patterson does find it again. Rennick's popping. I think he's not happy with that, but the referee's letting that play. Jay Linton is having to just clean that up at the back. Now Brunton, he finds Mitchell. Mitchell bounces, and he bounces really well and finds Kirk Ford on his shoulder to get the ball down. And a little bit of footwork there from Andrew Mitchell just put the question in the Selkirk defence and opened it up for Kirk Ford to go in for the score. And eventually Hawick do extend their league. We thought it was going to come from the grunt of the forwards, but it comes from the guile of the backs.
Just shows you what this Hawick outfit are all about. Tight moments, you want your big players to stand up, Dale, and two of Hawick's key men there, Andrew Mitchell and Kirk Ford. What a wonderful assist by Andrew Mitchell, as you say, little bit of fullback, beautiful pass. Kirk Ford in attendance, and over he goes, and there is daylight.
Kirk Ford, the fullback, the try scorer and the conversion taker, gets the 2 points.
Yeah, let's go.
A replacement as Craig Jackson comes off and Jack Hamilton goes onto the park. Perhaps a little reshuffle of the decks as Aaron McComb gets play underway, kicks it high. Dalton Redpath is under this one, pause it goes into the hands of Munro Job. And Jack Hamilton now is at scrum half. Perhaps Aaron McComb moving to 10 or moving to fullback. We'll give you an update on that as Philiphaugh just feeds off James Head. He managed to carry hard, and he's been impressive, even though he's had he's been withdrawn for the field of play. He's carried very, very hard, and McClyman has to punch above his weight to try and break through this Hawick defence. Now Bruce Riddle with his first carry of the game after being introduced shortly to try and stop the onslaught of this Hawick scrum. Now Luke Petty just holds his ground, feeds the ball, grabs it, just stands his ground and rides the tackle as McComb, who is at 10, finds Welsh, who bounces back in field, and he looks to bounce off Brunton, but not able to, but does take play up towards the 22 metre line. The referee's got a keen eye on that and making sure this ball is coming back, and Hamilton almost looks like he finds a gap, and Rooney McLeod doing well to just feed off him. Now McComb looked to throw the big ball through the dummy, and the defence was going with it, and Jack Hamilton now has perhaps got Hawick defence on its foot. Welsh has got a 2-on-1 situation. He's got 3 guys outside him. He tries to feed back in field, and it was Matt Reid on support. There was options there for Welsh, and I think he's probably chosen the wrong one, and there was an opportunity for Selkirk. They cough it up. Kirkford kicks downfield, and it's going to cross the whitewash here, exit the field of play. Selkirk with the throw into the line out, and Robin, you would imagine that, I don't know what your thoughts are on Welsh there if he picked the wrong option, but it'll be interesting to hear shortly, as straight off the top it's an accurate line out. Riddle being able to hit his target. Selkirk try and set the platform up midfield as McComb peels back round. He's not able to find Reid, but he does find Lachlan Ferguson, the Selkirk try scorer, but he just runs straight into the clutches of Muir. And now Hamilton digging about in the ruck. He's trying to keep the tempo going on the Selkirk attack, but it has completely came out of it, and James Head now just head down and just charges towards this Hawick defence, and Selkirk having to work very, very hard to try and get anything from their forays into the Hawick half. Selkirk 5, Hawick 17, and it's Matt Reid who they've opted to go for the penalty. Right footed kick, he's certainly got good distance on that, and it's accurate as well, so Selkirk get the 3 points there. An accurate line out again as Graham was at the tail, and it's now Ford who's in the 10 position. Through the hands of Huggin. Now Ronan McKean, he offloads to Jay Linton, who's lurking over there in the wider channels, which I love to see from a big powering back row, and he's swatting the Selkirk players off at will, and it's two worlds collided there as James Head and Jay Linton came together. There's options here out wide for Hawick if they can get the ball through the hands. Bailey Donaldson is not able to gather that as he received the ball from Mitchell. He's knocked the ball on. How good is Jay Linton when he's got the ball in hand? He runs lateral, but he's just able to thwart players away and straighten up pace, power, and he's got a bit of grunt as well.
That's it, footwork, pace, but that coming together with Jay, it was almost as if James Head had said, right, enough of this lad.
As James Head burrows down and looks to try and make some yards, as Jack Hamilton keeps going the same way, mixing up his first receiver, finds Welsh. Welsh gets through the defensive line, but the referee has said that has drifted forward. I tend to agree with him because I don't know if Ross Nixon had a past life as a waiter, because he kind of had that on a plate for Josh Welsh and just allowed him to take it off, but drifted it forward. But that was the first time we've really seen Josh Welsh hit the line hard and really penetrate this defence. Yeah,
it was a good option, just the execution was a wee bit off by Nixon. Wasn't a bad attempt by any stretch of the imagination, but yeah, you feel it's going to take something like that from Selkirk to claw their way back into this. What are the 9 points adrift as the clock ticks on?
Yeah, we've not got long left in this second half. Still plenty of time for the tide to turn here at Philiphaugh. It's been a game that over the last 3 seasons anyway, minus the one that was hampered by COVID, there's only been 7 points to separate these two teams. It's 9 as it stands. There's been 2 draws in there as well, so 9 points to try and overturn if Selkirk want to try and keep the pressure on and keep going at the top, towards the top of the Premiership. Another team who are certainly looking to keep the pressure on at the top of their division is in National 1, and it's Melrose, who have added 2 points from a position where they were drawn against Kelso. They now lead 16 points to 14 against Kelso, who are the leaders in National 1, which makes it another interesting division. I think the Premiership, Nat 1 and Nat 2 are really intriguing so far this season. Thankfully, from our point of view, are led by border teams. But Bailey Donaldson is first receiver, left-footed kick downfield, finds some good space, but Matt Reid is there for Selkirk. He puts his right foot to the ball this time, but it's straight back to Bailey Donaldson. Now Selkirk looking to try and play their figureheads on side, and it's Patterson who's looking to try and pin the ears back and go downfield. He's managed to just do some good work to manipulate the defence, but Aaron McComb is having to get back there and try and sweep up, because a little bit of pressure there from Hawick came on, but it's now in the steady hands of Jack Hamilton, who finds Shafag Jacques, who tips on to Riddle, and he almost breaks through the defensive line, and that tip on there has almost dislodged the defence. Nixon is up and boot to ball, crossfield kick. Reid's going to have to get up high. He's not able to flap it back, but it does go into the hands of Nixon, and now offloads to Josh Welsh. Now players over at the halfway line, as Selkirk are looking to try and roll the dice now. And they're doing well to manipulate this Hawick defence. Now into the hands of Aaron McComb, who was sitting in the pocket. He's going to turn Bailey Donaldson, and Bailey Donaldson is just casually keeping an eye on that bouncing ball. It's now into the hands of Kirk Ford, who tries and steals some yards and then puts his right foot to the ball, kicks it towards the halfway line, and it's going to be a throw into the line out to Selkirk. And you feel that this game is starting to open up now because Selkirk are rolling the dice.
Yeah, Selkirk need it to open up, but again, great play by Kirk Ford there. The man just makes very, very few errors. He does almost everything right, all the basics, and he's sent that to the halfway line.
Josh Welsh now taking the attacking play towards the Hawick line. It looked like it was opening up there for Selkirk. They did have the overlap there, but it's getting really congested in the tight areas as Jack Hamilton just slows the tempo of the play down. But Ross Nixon now getting on the outside shoulder, breaks through the line. He's now got some options outside him, just can't get the pass away to a Selkirk player. But Philiphaugh does well to gather the ball in the air. Bruce Riddle now, he gets the loose ball from his compatriot in the front row. And now Hamilton on the Hawick 10 metre line. He feeds Head. Head finds McComb. McComb's got Cottrell, and that's great hands there as Welsh now looks to try and break and free from this defensive line. He does well to ghost his way forward. Just couldn't find the chink in the armour of the Hawick defence as Hamilton finds McComb. McComb has now got Ryan Cottrell, who just puts in a little hitch kick to try and dislodge the defence, but Ronan McKean is well over that ball there. And I'm wondering if that's going to come back on the Hawick side, but it's been well snaffled by Selkirk as James Head now charges forward. And this is a great opportunity for Selkirk to try and close the margin that they trail in the favour of the Green Machine. Now a kick forward from Jack Hamilton. It's been gathered by Ronan McKean in the try area. And I wonder if that's been carried back over the try line, if he'd gathered it outside of the try line.
Goal line, drop it. Goal line, drop it. He's caught the ball in goal. It's a goal line, drop it.
Goal line drop out from Kirk Ford as a shriek of come on Selkirk comes from just outside the bar. It's certainly the fans here looking to try and get behind in what is a great atmosphere here at Selkirk in the Premiership. Hamilton has found McClyman, who's found space very hard to come by this afternoon. McComb fires the ball out to Petty. Petty now has found Andrew McComb. He's looking for the cut, but Lachlan Ferguson just doesn't offer it up quick enough for the back row player. And now Hamilton travelling with the ball finds McComb, who does well to pass the ball in an area where the Hawick defence were lurking, but it's been spilt forward as Selkirk look to gather the ball. And now Mitchell passes it to the hands to Huggin, and now it's over at the far side, and I think it's into the hands of Ethan Riley, the replacement. And now Fraser Rennick is charging the ball forward, and Hawick will welcome this, a period of pressure that they've got the ball in hand and they control where the game's going to be played from. And the guy controlling exactly that is Kirk Ford, who just sits in the pocket, licks it off his right foot and takes play towards the Selkirk 22. And he's taken play towards the Selkirk line and put the pressure back on them, and from the line out it's been flapped back on a Hawick side, and it's going to be Callum Rennick who's charging up, a very robust and turgid back row member, another player who can play hooker as well. So it's certainly an abundance of talent in this Hawick team. But Huggin finds Donaldson. Donaldson has now got Ronan McKean. He tries to chip forward, and it's going to come forward there. The referee's having a look at that. Patterson gets the ball down, but the referee has adjudged that was a knock on there from Hawick. And it's a knock on from Hawick, and it is the final play in this game. Hawick almost looked like they could have stretched their lead at the end, but as it stands, they don't get the bonus point, but they do get the victory here at Philiphaugh, and it finishes Selkirk 8, Hawick 17.
It's good. It's always good to get a win. You know, it's a tough place to come. It's one of the hardest places, so we're just happy with the win, and just take the win. Unfortunately, didn't get the bonus, but wasn't it be? So.
Yeah, disappointed. You know, the boys gave everything in that first half especially, and to come away with nothing, it's a bit of kick in the teeth. But credit to Hawick, they came out battle in second half, and we tried our hardest, and physically they were really good, and we stepped up to the mark and we gave them a game, but just unfortunate in the end.
You're still unbeaten. What was the kind of the game management and the plan coming into today?
It was probably just more to play in the right areas and try and not get dragged into a dogfight really, but it kind of never really happened on this pitch. It was always got to be a tough game. They're a really stuffy side, so So we got there in the end, but probably didn't play as well as we'd liked, but we got the win in the end, so can't complain.
So you've got obviously a new recruit coming in, Craig Jackson, who's slotted straight into the back line at centre. How's his experience and how's he fitted into the team?
Yeah, massively, just fitted in really well. His chat, second to none, helps especially in 9s and 10s a lot, and he's a great talent as well, so it's great to have him on board and look forward to playing him the rest of the season.
And what's it like for team morale to have the likes of Fraser Rennick come back from the Southern Knights and his influence and experience?
It's always good to have kind of likes of him, and Dalton came back and Daniels came back and all when he gets fit, so it's good to have their boys back and back involved and playing for Hawick, and they're Hawick boys as well, so it makes it even better.
Next week maybe take a wee bit off the pace and have a clarity session, just go through what we need to do, small things, small margins, but we move on. Massive game against Glasgow Hawks. If they've won today they go above us, so go up there on the road again and hopefully get a result up there.
So you seem to obviously be doing really well on the road because you beat Mar away and you're kind of doing really well. Is that a confidence thing, that going away on trips now that you're actually coming away with the victories?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's obviously you come home and you always want to put on a performance for the fans, but we've actually performed really well on the road, and we'll take that again to Glasgow and hopefully get a result up there again. So yeah. So
break week next week, but the week after you're obviously at home against Stratford, so another border derby just to back this one up. Yeah. What's the feeling kind of going into that? Well,
we just have to keep doing what we're doing, and a couple of hard weeks training, and just see how we go. That'll be another tough game. It's typical border derby, but we'll just see how it goes on the day, and hopefully we get a win.